It's very rare that a piece of tech comes along that completely blows you away. This drone has had a serious overhaul with its new upgraded sensor, which we would expect in 2024. It has a 1/1.3 inch CMOS sensor that's capable of capturing up to 8K in HDR. The sensor is equipped with a 2-axis electronic stabilized gimbal for super smooth shots. With its rear collision sensor and new omni-terrain feature, you can now fly over water and snow. Could this be the perfect drone for content creation and, dare I say, professional work? We will cover the manual control aspects of the drone, including cinematic styles. We'll also test the quick shots of the drone, but we also have to look at what it's like in full auto mode. Hey everyone, how you doing? And we are finally going to do the review of the HOVERair X1 PROMAX. Now this review is severely delayed, and that's been for a couple of reasons. The two main reasons are that the first two videos I did were severely overcomplicated, and I didn't think it needed to be that way. I just wanted to do something that was, relevant to me and my use case of the drone, rather than bleating on about specs. You can find the specs anywhere online. There's so many videos now. Also, it's because the beacon, I was waiting for the beacon to be updated because I had a few connection issues with it. And now on the final release at the moment, the final version that we have now, this one right here, I can say, yes, we're now ready for review. So I've been testing this now for about, I don't know, maybe about a month or so. And I've been going to different locations, different kind of areas, built up areas, enclosed areas, out in fields, and I've flown over water with the controller, with the phone, with iPads, and just done so many tests just to make sure I got a good understanding of what this drone can do. And yeah, it's been absolutely great. I mean, the tracking speed at, 42 kilometers per hour, and doing the rear sensor test as well. Yeah, I really love this drone, man, from a fun perspective. And also, as I said, maybe from a professional perspective, there's a lot I can see myself getting out of this drone. So you've already briefly seen the resolutions, which shoots in 8K 30 or 4K and 1080p, and all of them look pretty good to me. There's no real problems I can see with the images there. You can also do up to 120 frames per second in 4K, 1080p. So there's lots of options that you can choose in terms of what kind of frame rates that you want. So the main point of this drone is for quick shots, a very easy to use quick shots drone that you can just send up in the air, get your shot and go about your business. So because that's the main feature of the drone, we're going to test those quick shots now in auto mode. Okay, so now we're going to talk about quick shots on the drone, because this is what this drone is made for. This is what sets it apart from all other drones on the market, in that if you want to get a quick shot when you're on a holiday or you're doing some sort of event or hobby, the point is to get this drone up in the air quickly, get your shot and move on. So let's get this up in the air now. At the moment I'm in hover and it's on tracking. So I'm just going to press this button at the front. And now the drone is hovering, it's starting to record and it's tracking me now. So hopefully it's recording me, because I've got the phone open and we've got the app open as well. And now it should be recording my voice directly from here straight to the drone. Now we have a lot of options in terms of quick shots. We have sidetrack, we have orbit, we have dolly. We have so many different modes that we have on this drone, like what you saw in the intro, loads of different quick shots that I tried in the video. So we're just testing this one out and the audio now to see how it sounds. The audio is on medium noise reduction, so I'm quite close to the drone. Let me move a bit further away and see if that helps with the audio a bit more. You can't, I suppose if you're going to do the app audio, you probably want the drone a little bit away from you. You've got extreme audio noise reduction, but I'm not going to use that one because it sounds a bit weird to me. This should be okay. So yeah, this is it. This is the main point of the drone, quick shots. Let it grab your quick shot. It's like your what can I say? Your AI cameraman that can go anywhere with you and track you, and absolutely fantastic. Now, this is all in auto, and we're going to talk about exposure settings a few times in this video, and especially when I get to the end, because I still think that the auto exposure needs a bit of work. They've just tweaked it recently, but I think it still needs a bit of work, but we'll talk about that at the end of the video. Those quick shots were done in auto mode, and you can do manual mode as well, manual picture settings, which will give you actually even better quality. But for auto picture settings, I think that it does really well, and as I said, it's really easy to use. I want to show you how it works with the iPad and flying over water and return to home. So I've got my iPad here and I've got the drone, and we're about to do our first test flight over water. I haven't flown over water yet. So I've got to make sure that the omni-terrain feature is activated on the drone. There's nothing you need to do. You just open the drone, turn it on and hold it out in your hand, and then a little icon will come up on the top left of the screen. And that means that the omni-terrain has been automatically activated, and the drone will now be able to fly over water or snow or reflective surfaces. So first of all, we're going to open the app, and then we're going to go to the hover settings. And here we can see all of our quick flight modes: hover, zoom out, follow, orbit. And if you go into those, you can change these settings as well, like the radius, the angle, target tracking, all that kind of stuff. But all of that can be done on the buttons here too. So you don't actually need the app to do none of this. And then you've got your sound recording if you want to record your voice whilst using your mobile phone. Always make sure you've got the app open, and you can do extreme noise reduction or normal noise reduction. And yeah, just a few other settings here for updates and stuff like that. We also have the flight modes. All of the flight modes here: follow, orbit, all of that kind of stuff. This also can be done again from the front of the drone, and also can be done from the beacon as well, because it has all of these options here. But today, we want to go into manual controls here. So first of all, make sure the HOVERAir is connected. It is. We're going to go into manual control. I'm on photos at the moment, so first of all, we're going to go over a bit of this screen. So let me turn up the screen brightness a little bit first. And we have up the top on the left, we have waiting to take off. We have our exposure values. It's in auto at the moment, auto ISO, auto shutter. On the right hand side here, we can see omni-terrain is activated. We've got 55% left battery. We've got our record start stop button here, whether you're on photos. At the moment we are on photos. Let's change it to video, and then we can see a 16:9 picture here. Now I'm getting a bit of signal break up here. I don't know if it's something in this area, but something's breaking up my signal a little, but that'll be a good test anyway. And then if we go into the settings here, we can change things like the flight direction, depending on if we want to use the controls towards us or away from us. We've got the camera settings: normal, HDR, slow motion. We've got digital zoom there, ×1 or ×2. Resolution up to 8K, and frame rate and video encoding and stuff like that. Now, funny thing is that when I was looking at the footage what I recorded earlier, and I showed in the video earlier, the 4K actually looks more detailed than the 8K, which is really strange to me. Maybe it's to do with another software update is needed, but the 4K to me is looking fantastic. So let's take off.
Manual control.
And now we're going to take a flight over water using just the iPad. So let's go. Okay, so let's record this footage now. And let's go in. Oh my God, here comes the birds. Hope they don't attack the drone. Right, so we're going to fly over water now. I might have to run and take a swim in a minute. Let's see how it handles over water. And I'm quite far away now from the drone with my iPad. not quite over the water. Let's go a bit further out. I hope none of them birds don't knock it down. Okay, so we're completely over the water now. Yeah, it's holding lovely, it's holding lovely. I think these birds are getting a bit triggered. Let's turn this around before one of them knocks it out the sky. But yeah, it's holding fantastically well. Absolutely fantastic. So now I'm going to try to return to home and then let's see what happens, because this is only connected to the iPad now. So let's see what happens. Right, return to home. So it's going up high. It's coming towards me at speed as well. Okay, it's right above my head. Right above my head, just here. I wonder if it comes down by itself. This is the first time I'm testing this, so I actually don't even know. Is it going to come down by itself? No, I think it's just going to hold there, you know. Ah, it is coming. Almost hit those birds. I think the birds hate it. Okay, that's awesome. Fantastic. So yeah, return to home on the phone, tablet, sorry. It works absolutely amazing. So this is probably the first device that I've used where I actually like using the app, and it actually is probably one of the most fluid and natural feelings, because normally when you're using an app or phone or some sort of device to fly a drone or an RC car or whatever, it never quite feels good. But this one actually feels quite solid. Like you can actually get good, decent shots from this. Really, really do enjoy it. So what we have here is the beacon, and this is one of the ways that you can control the HOVERair X1 Pro or Pro Max. And it's a really clever design. So let me just quickly jump into it so you can see what I'm talking about here. So first of all, you have the main part of the beacon. Now with this part here, you can do basic movements like up, down, left, right, and you can yaw left and right as well. And you also have a return to home button on here and a pause button, but we'll get into those. Once we connect the drone up to the beacon, we'll get into those. You've got a nice OLED screen on here as well. So let me just turn this on quickly so you can see it come on. So now you can see it's come on and we're waiting to connect. So as I said, you can use the beacon just like this to do basic controls. And I'll be honest with you, I really like this way here because it's so small and compact, very easy to use. So this is the controller number one, and this one is the one that's actually got power in as well. So this power can be used to connect to the beacon as well. And that becomes like a whole new style of controller. You've got like a wand type, which you can move the drone backwards and forwards just by controlling it. And then you also can use the controls and the stick here as well to get even more finite controller over the drone, which I really love. And you've got these two little button clip things here, these metal clips, and it's magnetic as well. So when you push those down, it can just come off, or you can just snap them back on and then you've got your controller there. Absolutely amazing. You can then connect the other part, which turns it into a full controller. Now this has no battery in, so there's no USB ports or anything else on this. Plug that one in there, and then you just pull these out and down, and now you have a really nice kind of full-fledged controller. This is another one of my favorite configurations because I think this screen is really nice enough to do, composition and see where you're flying and stuff like that. Absolutely amazing just to fly like this. But then you can also take this a step further and then put your phone in there as well. So you put your phone in, push it down, then you get your USB-C to USB-C cable, plug it in, and then plug it into the phone. And then it will also charge your phone as well. So you can see my phone's charging. Now from here, we can go into full manual mode and fly it like a normal drone. Okay, so I've got the drone connected to the controller, the beacon. You can see the feed there. And on the app, you can't quite see it, but it says Smart Preview there. Now, I'm going to talk about the software later on because I actually had to do this a couple times just to get it to connect and just get the Smart Preview button working. So if I press Smart Preview now, the screen on the beacon cuts off, and then we've got the screen here. We've got no telemetry, no data, no nothing. Everything is still on the top of the beacon here, very small. I'm not sure if you can see that, but it would be nice to have some telemetry here. So now what we do is we're going to take off with the hover.
Continue. Hover.
And then I'm going to press the return to home button once in the middle, and then press the direction button. And now we're in manual mode. And now I can take off and fly manually. Very overcast day, quite cloudy, so exposure looks good. If this was sunny and I had this in auto, I fear that it would be quite overexposed, the sky, or we'd probably get some noisy shadows. So we're going to talk about the exposure levels at the end of the video and what Hover could do to make those a bit better. But at the moment, yeah, it looks absolutely great. No problems here. Let's try the gimbal and rotate at the same time. Or yaw, I should say. So we can see the exposure lifting there. So let's see what the shadows are like once we get this in, see if they're a bit noisy. Because as I'm going to say in the end, I think that this drone favors the highlights more. But we'll see. So let's bring it back in now. Actually, you know what? Let me fly it forward a bit and let's try the return to home and see how that handles with the beacon. Because the hover link, the chain link icon is on. So let's see how that works. So I've got to press and hold the home button, and now it says returning to home. Right, I can see it coming back towards me. Hopefully the screen's not too bright for you guys that you can see on this screen here. Maybe I should have done a screen recording really. But yeah, it's coming down. It's right above, it's coming down now, right above me. And here we are, it's right here. So yeah, that is the controller with the phone. As I said, I'm going to talk about the software in a minute because it does need a few tweaks still to get this 100%, but that's it. So now we're going to talk about setting your ISO, your shutter and your exposure values properly so you can get a good image that you could potentially use for client work. So first of all, we need to go into the settings in the top right and we need to go to camera settings, and I would suggest maybe shooting in normal. Now I will show a HDR example which you can get more out of in your shadows and details and highlights, etc. But at the moment we're going to focus on normal. Now, you can choose your 4K or 8K, but because we're going to do a very high frame rate, we're going to choose 4K. And as you can see, I've got mine set to 50 frames per second. Now, the reason I've got it set to 50 is because when you're moving up and down or you're panning the drone left and right, the more frames you've got, the more detail you will have in the image. I'm going to show you some 30 frames per second shots in a minute, and you're going to see that in certain places the image can get soft, and that's due to motion blur. But when the camera is still, you can see that it will have a lot of detail. So we're going to choose 50 frames per second here, and that's all you need to do in here really. Now the exposure value, ISO and shutter is in auto. So what we're going to do first is we're going to go to 100 ISO. And then because I'm shooting in 50 frames per second, we need to double the frame rate. So 1/100. And that is what you want to do every time for the most natural images. So 1/100, lovely, everything's set. And you can see that the exposure value is now locked, so we can't change that. So now to get a good exposure in the sky, we need to use an ND filter. So the drone will come with, you can get ND filters. And from here, when we put the ND filter on, you can see that the ground is a bit dark, but the sky is nicely exposed now. So now you can fly like this, and then when you do your color grading, you can lift your shadows a bit. Not too much because they will get noisy, but you can now lift them. You can also use a weaker ND filter that will give you more bring your shadows up a bit more, make them a bit brighter, but then that will make your highlights brighter as well. Sometimes you just have to make the decision which is more important to you. So that was doing it, the whole thing manually with your ISO and shutter. Now we're going to look at just exposure values. So if we bring the ISO back to auto, bring the shutter back to auto, you can see that we've got -1 on the shutter here. Now normally, on the exposure value. Now normally your exposure value will be set to 0, 0. And actually that looks pretty okay. But if we drop the exposure value just a little bit more, we can then start to bring back a bit more sky down a bit more. So it looks a bit more, you know, properly exposed. And then the ground looks okay as well. Now remember that your ISO and shutter are still in auto. So if you move the camera upwards, your exposure values can still change a bit. You see it get a little bit brighter there? So that's something to be aware of. Now I'm going to show you a couple of shots here, and these are shot in 30 frames per second. I should have shot in 50 or 60, but you can see that in auto mode with the exposure brought down, it looks absolutely glorious. Your client would be happy with this. If you shoot in HDR, you can get a lot more out of your highlights and shadows, but it will require some tweaking in post. But once you grade it, again, your images can look absolutely fantastic. No, you won't be flying far like a DJI, and obviously you've got short battery life. But for most professionals who know what they're doing, if you're shooting a wedding or some sort of corporate job or real estate, you will get that drone up, you will get the shots that you've got pre-planned, and then get the drone back down. So the fact that I could do these shots within 15 seconds, and I'm talking about getting the drone, having it up in the air, recording, and using my phone as a controller, this drone can definitely be used for professional work. No, you won't be recording any Hollywood movies with it, but for corporate stuff, the odd establishing shot and, you know, maybe the odd wedding shot of the location, absolutely fantastic. Right, so this is the bit where we get all serious now. Okay, so you know what? First of all, I'm going to say Hover, they've done a fantastic job. The drone is absolutely amazing. You know, the hardware, what they've done, the accessories are absolutely fantastic. You know, we've got the charge case, which allows you to charge your drone in between shoots. So keep your drone topped up, because the flight time of the drone, they say it's about 16 minutes, but really and truly you're going to get about 13 minutes. So having the charge case, which you can just drop the drone in and it will recharge in between locations, is absolutely fantastic, and it's a very nice design. You've got the carry case as well, which is nice and portable, and it's got that kind of waterproof texture, so that's really nice. And then you've got the things like the case for the beacon as well, and the controller, all of it very cohesive and a very nice design. You've got the clips as well, how you're going to attach it to your, you know, your devices or your mode of transport. You've got the bike clip, handlebar clip, which can be used with the rucksack clip. So they all kind of work together in terms of giving you kind of like an ecosystem. But you can also use other GoPro products. Like for instance, I brought this wrist strap. So when I've got the beacon on me and I'm running or cycling or whatever, I don't have to keep looking around in different places. And even if I get off the bike and then go and do something else, if I'm on the skates or whatever, I can still have it on me and track where the drone is going. And using the beacon is going to give you that enhanced tracking. So you kind of want to have the beacon on you and being able to see what you're doing. So in terms of the accessories and the hardware of the drone, it's absolutely fantastic. I would give this drone a solid 85 out of 100. Where the other 15% is lost is in the software, because there's still a few things that need tweaking, you know, in terms of software. First of all, let's go to the picture quality, because even though you've seen a lot of decent images in this video, well, I hope you think they're decent anyway, there's a lot of things that still need tweaking. You know, for instance, the exposure. If you look at some of my earlier footage, you can see that in bright sunlight, it is peaking like crazy. And now this is because of the way that the camera is setting the exposure. Now, Hover have since tweaked that in the software, but I still don't think they've tweaked it enough. They favored the shadows, and now what this is doing is it makes the highlights blown out, but then it also lifts the shadows, so we're getting a bit of noise in the shadows as well. Now for most people, this isn't going to be a problem. You're just going to throw it up, you're going to grab your quick shot and go. But it can really make your image super contrasty, like way too contrasty. So that definitely needs tweaking. You do have the manual overrides on that, but then it means you have to take out your phone and then you can override it and then do your quick shots. Now for the point of having a quick shots drone, we just want to throw it up, get our shot and move on. So I do understand, you know, for most people it's okay, but for my taste, I prefer to, you know, use the manual settings, because then it's a night and day difference. It's so much difference in what you can grab back from exposure. You know, it's absolutely crazy. Second thing is, I would like to see a 10-bit log profile. So we already have 10-bit when you're doing HDR, it is actually 10-bit. But if we had a log profile, we could get so much more out of this. I've managed to match the HOVERair with my Sony FX3, just a quick shot, and it turned out really well. There's a lot of information in there, especially in HDR mode, or if you tweak the settings, you can really do a lot with it. But I would love to see a log mode in there. So yeah, hover, fix the overexposure, don't let it clip so much, and hopefully if you can bring a 10-bit log mode. And then lastly, just about the software again, I think the software is still a bit finicky. I mean, I've managed to do everything what I need to do. I can do the, you know, controller shooting, I can put my phone on there, I can do quick shots. Literally, I can do everything what they said that can be done with the drone. But I just think that some things with the app, you know, need polishing, the beacon needs polishing, and they are updating on a regular basis, but Hover do need to sort out the software. Once they sort out the software, if they can just flush it out, like, dare I say, DJI, because the DJI software is absolutely fantastic. You know what my thoughts were about the Neo, that went straight back. I can't deal with that footage, you know, at all. But the HOVERair can actually produce some really lovely footage, but the software side of it just needs to be brought up a couple of levels, and then I think they're onto a 100% winner. So yeah, that's it really. I know it was a lot of talking. We probably could have gone more over things like ND filters and stuff like that, but I really wanted to get into the nitty gritty, like use the drone and then give my honest to God feedback on what HOVERair need to do. So they're nearly there. They are nearly there, just a few more tweaks, and I'm glad to say it's all software based. That's a good start. So once they sort out the software and you know, finesse it, I think we're onto a perfect winner for travel, fun, and like I said, if you're doing weddings or, you know, some sort of corporate jobs, get the drone up in manual mode, get your establishing shot, bring it back down. I think it's more than usable. So yeah, that's it. That's my review, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you on the next one later.